Hello, and welcome to my North Carolina All-State, All-District, Eastern District Solo Workshop. Today, we are going to go through all of the solos for trumpet that, starting with the high school solos, and then the middle school solos, and then the scales. But first, we're going to talk about what you should do if you haven't started looking at this at all, or any piece really, just approaching a new piece of music to you. And that'll apply to everybody. And then if you want to fast forward to your part, like I said, I'm going to go right into the 11-12 high school solo, the ballet Prelude et Ballade. So, what do you need to know before you even start? Well, the first most important thing is going to be rhythm, right? You have to know exactly what it sounds like, and like how to count it. So what I do often is I'll take my pencil and I'll just mark the beats first, and then I'll mark the ands with a little and sign. And if you do one e-anda or one tatata or whatever system you use, I mark that in because I'm always going to be subdividing that, right? So I need to know how each rhythm sounds, and then I also need to know how the rhythms sound together. In other words, the phrases or the bars, right? So in the high school solo, for instance, we don't have anything too complicated right away, but we do have grace notes, and grace notes have rhythm. You have to decide what it is, but they do have rhythm. So I might just go through and go, okay, let's see. Here's the beat, right? Da, da, da. Now I need to know where those grace notes go. Where do they go? Before the beat, right? So without the grace notes, I might go da, 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 right? That's the rhythm there. But now I need to add those grace notes in. That's going to come before the beat. So da, 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 da. And the focus is still the note that comes on the beat. We're just squeezing them in right before and they lead to that, right? So even going on, right? Da, 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 da. There's a tie there, right? So I need to mark that beat so I know that I don't move on the beat. I move on the, let's see, one E and a, right? So da, E and a, one. So the rhythm is going to be the most important thing first off, right? And I want to learn those as whole big groups of things. I don't want to have to try to count each one every time. I want the rhythm at this beginning part is just, well, we'll keep going actually. We'll say the next bar, da, 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 right? That's the rhythm, just without singing it. Da, 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 da. I need to know that whole thing. If I have to go 1, 2, 3 and 1, I'm never going to make it, right? So I need to make sure that I know the sound of the whole measure and maybe even the whole phrase, right? The sound of the rhythm, that is, right? Now, we're already singing pitches, so let's talk about pitches. That's the next most important thing. If there's an interval that is tricky for me, maybe maybe there's a tritone, or maybe there's an octave and I can't quite hear it, right? Whatever it is, I need to make sure that every group of 2 notes, I am absolutely dead sure of what those notes sound like next to each other, right? So the beginning of this one isn't too bad, but when we get into this next part, right? There's a tritone right there. Well, what if I accidentally go? Those are all things I could play with the right fingerings, right? So I need to know the intervals, the interval structure, the sound of each note next to each other note. And that's easy enough to do if you know your chromatic scale, and you should because it's one of the scales you're going to need to know. Well, then just check on everything, right? It's a great warm-up even to just play every group of 2 notes. You don't have to spend a long time on it, but yeah, that's the first interval. That one's easy. These are all scalars, so I don't have to worry about that. See what I mean? So just make sure you know what the intervals are, and if you need to play them on a computer or play them on the piano, and it's best, whatever you do, you have to be able to sing them, okay? And lots of people don't like singing, It's okay. Nobody needs to hear you sing if you sing into a pillow or something, but you need to be able to sing the intervals. I refused to sing for a long time, especially when I was in high school, and I regret it now because I sing all the time now. I wish I'd started earlier. And what it means when you can hear the interval, or when you can sing it, you can hear it, right? So if I'm going to do an ascending, oh gosh, a minor sixth or something, right? Then, well, I need to be able to really, really suss that out, right? I don't know if there is one, but. Oh. That's a major six, I guess. But anyway, I need to hear those intervals, and so practicing singing them. Da, let's see. Da, 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 da. See? So being able to sing it, I know I can play it. All right, so let's keep going. I also need to know the style of the piece. That's the literal style. So this is just, this is classical music, you could say, in a generic sense. It's a French contest solo. So that's a specific type of French music from around the turn of the century in this case. A little bit later, actually. But it's in that style. And so that might mean something to you, and you could look that up. The time period, we just covered that. The composer's specific style, well, this is Guillaume Bellet. And you can look up other pieces that you you may have already played some of them that are by him, and so that might give you a clue as to his specific kind of brand of music, right? And you want to get all that stuff because the people who are adjudicating these all-district and all-state solo things, well, they're going to know the actual style, right? And if you don't know it, well, then you might play it really wrong, and then they won't advance you, even though maybe you play the trumpet really well. So make sure you know the style. Then, if you're actually going to collaborate with other people, if it's this has a piano part, and you can do this on a recital, then you need to know that piano part, right? And you need to know your role at every moment. Are you the actual soloist, or are you actually in the background during each part, right? You need to know that. And so we're not going to do that for all district this time, but you could still, if you work really hard on this piece, whether you get into all district or not, you can absolutely play it with a pianist. So the other pieces you can't necessarily. I don't know that they have piano parts, but they might, and you could find out. And then, of course, we're making music here, right? So our rhythm and our pitches are the basic components of just figuring out what it might sound like, and the style is a part of that sound. But music is something that we decide, and it's in the music already, but what are the most important notes, right? Where does each phrase arrive? How do I get there, right? Where do all the notes belong to? Which note do they all sort of serve? So that's one way to look at it. And if you sing it a lot, you'll find the answers to those things, right? And then finally, make sure you listen to recordings after you've done some of this. It's good to do some of it on your own to start, and then just listen to any recordings you can find that are of good trumpet playing. And you have to determine what that is. If you get a recording and it's not very good, well, you're going to sound like what you listen to, right? You are what you eat. So make sure that you listen to good recordings. There is a recording of this Bellet, actually several, and there are some good ones out there. So without endorsing any one in particular, I'll just tell you there are at least two good ones out there. And the other pieces, there's a website that you can go, if you're doing one of the other versions, you can pay a couple of bucks or something, and they'll give you a recording of it. I have not heard it, so I don't know how good it is. I don't even know if it's a trumpet. It might be just a MIDI recording, right? The computer. But anyway, so that's how to know what it sounds like. How are you able to play it? Well, you have to do a good warm-up. If you've watched this channel ever before, you know that mostly what's on here is good warm-ups. So make sure you do a good routine that gives you your best chance at success on the trumpet each day. And then include in that routine everything you can't do. If you don't address it, it's not going to get better, right? Work on your general weaknesses that are specific to this piece. Maybe really fast notes is not your forte, or not your strongest suit, right? Well, then you need to practice that every day. And it might be as simple as just going... right? Just back and forth. I'm just that nasty scale at the beginning. Whatever it is, just make sure you do it every day, right? And work on it in the piece, but also away from the piece. And then just address every specific problem. Any difficult lick, like that lick that we were just playing, slow it down first, right? Make sure you're getting it right. Slur it always, because you're going to use your air better, and you're not going to try to tongue things out. You'll hopefully not use your lips as much. You'll just blow right through the phrase. Chunking is a really big one, and I think it's an important one here, where I need to do just pieces of things, but I need to do them in time. And that's maybe something we didn't say. Rhythm only matters if it's in time, right? The pitches and rhythms have to be over a steady beat. And so if we're practicing this, maybe there's a difficult lick. We'll play plus mouvement at bar 35, right? Maybe this is hard for me, so I'm going to go. I'm going to go slowly at first. Make sure that I know it, right? I might even sing it slowly first, which is my next tip on my sheet here. But I'm also going to do it in chunks. So if I want to do it in time, I'm going to go da 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 da, right? But maybe that's too much too soon. So I'll just do it in time, but I'm going to do it half a beat at a time. Watch. Sorry. Right? I'm just going to do a little chunk at a time, and then I might do bigger chunks, like 4 notes at a time, or maybe I'll do the opposite chunk, right, where I stop on the first note instead of the second note. See what I mean? And then I can do. And so I'm just getting chunks of it, and I'm doing the chunk in regular time, but for my brain, it's halftime still, because I'm pausing at the end or any place in there, right? So that's chunking. That's really important. I cover that in a lot of my videos, but that's how you do it. And you can sing, I already said, but you can also combine these things. I can sing it slowly in chunks if it's confusing me, right? And I can mark the beats. I can use my pencil. That's also always going to help, right? Other techniques that sometimes help me are doing it backwards. That one has some limited use, but sometimes it really makes something click. Doing it left-handed, people talk about this all the time. Again, not something that I do a lot, but it's a clever trick. If you're going to do it left-handed, you may as well do it left underhanded, meaning you sort of hold your horn and then bring it over here, and then you can do the same thing right-handed, right underhanded, where in other words your third finger is on your first valve. And you can also just pick up another trumpet, like this C trumpet here, if you have one, right? And sometimes it just makes more sense. Uh-oh, my valves are sticky on the C trumpet. It's because it got cold today. Right? Just play it down a step on C trumpet, and sometimes you go, oh, I don't know why that's so much easier. And then when you put it back on the B flat trumpet, it stays easy. Who knows, right? So that's anything you're going to play. For all the different age groups of solos, make sure that you absolutely know what it sounds like, rhythm, pitches, style, right? If you're going to play with the piano part, what music you want to make. Listen to recordings, let them influence you a little bit, but mostly you can do this on your own. And then make sure that you're working on it, on the weaknesses that you have with it, and working them out. Maybe it's in chunks, maybe it's just slurring it, maybe it's slowing it down, maybe it's singing it a lot, right? My dad is on the chat right now, saying ear. I think that says ear. Yeah, the air is mightier than the lip. Yeah, these are all good pieces of advice for any solo. But we're going to talk about these specific solos and the pitfalls that you might have. We've already talked about the very first one, which is these grace notes. Lots of people will skip the grace notes don't do that. Grace notes are real notes too, right? Grace notes are people too. You have to play them. They are real notes. But we already showed you like how we'll leave them out so that we can understand the underlying rhythm, but we need to put them back in. And the best way, the way we're going to approach everything is what does it sound like first, right? So what does it sound like? Well, we already discussed that. Da, 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 da. Right? I'm sure that's not the correct concert pitches, but... Oops, got a little chunk in there. So now the very next bar, we've got some double tonguing. If you don't know how to double tongue, well, Arbin's book, get the Arbin's book out. But the fastest way that I've learned is to say either tiki or tiki, right? Make sure that's really high and small. You don't want to go taka, taka, taka. But if that helps you start to get the right syllables in the right places, that's okay. Just make sure that when you play the trumpet, it gets a lot smaller and a lot further forward, all right? And if you're struggling with it, just try it on one note first. Simplify, right? Right? I have a great TikTok video about how to go from Visco Girl to Great Double Tonger, where you go... You can go check it out if you want. But it's also just something that you can read the Arbin's book, and they'll tell he tells you how to do it, right? Arbin's book is free now, so just go get it. Arban''S. Jean-Baptiste Arbon is who we're talking about, in his very big book. So, but this part, we have to get out of a slur, right? Da, 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 da. And again, singing it, saying it is going to help you play it. Da, 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 right? You don't even have to sing the right pitches. Make sure it's as late as you can go because it's very fast, right? So now there's a couple of things we went through there. A lot of people, when I ask them how do you sight read well, or how do you play with other people, or whatever it is, the first thing they say is look at the key signature and the time signature, and that's right. But that's how you read music. That's not how you sight read. That's critical information no matter what you're playing. And in this case, there's this E flat, right, that a lot of people are going to miss. And I have mine marked right away because there's naturals in that bar, right? It's easy to miss that. So make sure you mark anything that you might miss, right? Even if it's in the key signature, even if you're proud and you say, no, I can do it. Well, okay, but if you miss it one time, just mark it right now, and then you're right. You will do it right every time now because it's marked. If you mess it up twice, well, then that's twice that you learned it wrong, and now you're going down a bad path. So make sure you just mark whatever you need. I have a bunch of stuff. This part, I marked it in blue so that it would be a little more obvious, right? But I marked a lot of stuff in my part, and that was just for me. That wasn't really for anybody else. This is my part, right? So now we're glossing over. There's this really nasty 10 tuplet. Well, how do you play a 10 tuplet? In this case, as fast as you can, right? You can practice it with a metronome on, right? And just as fast. It says 104. That's pretty fast for this, actually. I would go a little slower, but really play musically and accurately. And I don't think anybody's going to knock you down some points for not going exactly 104. Because it's just too fast, right? So, but put the metronome on some tempo that you feel like you can do. Right? And we're going to, all we want is F and then all the right notes, but it'll sound like and then A flat right on the beat, right? So right? That's what it's going to eventually sound like. So we can practice that motion because the last note you're going to play is D before you go to the A flat, right? Oh. Almost, right? this third valve keeps sticking on me. But that's how you practice it. It's just, see, that's too fast for me. I'm almost getting it, but I'm not quite getting there. And so that means that was, I think, 80 or 70. I need to go 10 beats per minute slower until I can get that in there, right? And then what I'm doing is practicing a sound over the beats, and that's what we talked about already. So that'll come back later, so we'll address it later. That was 80, so I'm going to put this down to 70. And when you get there in actual context, right, you just want to keep the beats going and make sure that you're not slowing down in order to get it, right? So and see, I got a little finger tied there, but I'm not going to let it stop me from making music, right? That sounds like an excuse. Yeah, well, I mean, it is. I didn't get the notes, but I did get the A flat to come right where I wanted it to, and that's way more important than getting every single one of those notes, right? This is a good case for backwards, actually. Oh, and I left out the most important part. In the version that they have for this year's NCBA All-State Audition excerpt that you're probably looking at, there's a missing B natural. You need to put that B natural in. And you know how I know? Because this piece is public domain, and you can get it on imslp.org. So you can look this piece up and get the original, which has all the correct notes in it, and actually is, I think, barred better. It goes on a little longer, too. There's a little more to the piece that you can learn. Now, you don't need to play that for your all-district, all-state audition, but I prefer to look at this part. I'm looking at the one that you have because I'm doing a clinic on it right now, but anyway, that's a missing B natural that is not engraved in this part, and so you need to make sure you add that in, right? Okay. Oh, I might have to go get another B flat trumpet on this. Okay. I'm just going to play through until we have some more stuff. I don't want to spend too much time just on this first piece, and I've already spent probably 10 minutes on it. So we'll get to the other stuff quickly. There's a good spot where that in the original engraving, there's a space between those two C's. It's not slurred through, and you need to make that space. It doesn't make any sense without it. And then it's also the eighth notes at the end. This is bar 26. The eighth notes at the end of that bar are separated in this new engraving for some reason, but they look normal in the old version. So I personally would play off the old version if I was trying to get a spot in all state. But anyway. All right, we'll keep going. Still not good on my valves here. Where did I go? Okay. Now, somebody in the comments, if you're watching this later, without looking it up, tell me what it looks like plus movimente, but it's plus mouvement, right? I'm not very good at French, but I know it's kind of closer. What does that mean? And then what about acceleres, right? What does that one mean? Because the words are important. They're in there. In the other pieces that we're going to talk about, they're in there just to trip you up. In this case, they are meaningful, but we still need to know what they are. They're in French. You can look them up on a translator, but you really should have the Christine Ammer musical terms dictionary or something like that, because they sometimes translate differently in music than they do in just basic French or whatever, language, Italian, German, whatever they are. There might be a slightly different translation that makes more sense to us. But okay, you've had enough time to type in the chat. It means with more movement, right? It's with additional movement, and accelerando, which just means to get faster, right? So we're adding drama, we're adding speed, right, all the way up until the fermata. Okay, so that's what we did. Now, what are these little tiny baby notes? Well, in the original, again, they look different. I don't know if you can see that. I'm trying to make it clear, but they look different. There's not a 5-lit and a 6-lit and a 6-lit. They're just beamed together without numbers, and that's because they don't need to be perfectly in time or over the beat. They do need to be relative to each other, kind of in time, but this is kind of a little mini cadenza here, right? So you want to play it fluidly, and then you'll notice that there's one F sharp that's kind of hanging out by itself as an 8th note while everything else looks fast. And that's because you're supposed to stop on that and then just rock it up into the new tempo on that G. So I'll do my best here. Let's see, we'll play before it and put the rest in. Just like that. So you have to really know it in your fingers, but it's just a shape. You can hang on a note here or there that you think is important, but you want to sort of glide through it, right? Okay, we'll keep going. Okay, and a little vibrato goes a long way. Don't overdo it. Don't make it too fast, and try not to be very pitchy about it. All color and volume vibrato. That's where it's at, especially in a piece like this. Okay, so that's the whole first section. Now we get to the allegro moderato. By the way, you should count all your rests when they're that short, right? You don't have to count these big long 8 rests probably, but you should count 3 beats of rest, right? Because otherwise your time is bad. It sounds like, right? Okay, so now here's another French word. I won't tell you what this one means, but decide, right? Decide, it says in here. It is what it looks like, but you can look it up for yourself. But let's play a little bit of this. Now this one's all about sort of being very light and crisp, right? And it's a little bit faster. Don't go faster than you can go, and make sure that you practice. There's one little spot that's sort of like Petrushka, offbeat scales that you can practice, right? But here we go. Oh, I played a wrong note. I'm so sorry. I'll mark it right now. That's what you do. I knew I was going to do that too. I looked at it earlier and I said, well, why would I play an A natural there? Well, because there's naturals around there. All right. I'll play that part again. So this is a part you might want to look at. I obviously need to again. And it just is awkward, right? So you take it slow. And the hard part is actually that its lips, it doesn't have a fingering for every note, just in this one awkward spot. So that's what you want to practice. See? Just like that. And now you put it back in, and that's what those offbeat scales I was talking about. Oh, that's what I'm doing. I was playing B natural, and that's why I couldn't play anything. Right. So you can, if this is weird for you, if this is really complicated, put a metronome on, right? A little faster than that. Right? And just practice your, in this case, E flat major scale maybe, right? Just practice it in the same pattern that this is, and you'll have this in no time. All right, and then we have sort of a new section here. That's the rest of the piece as excerpted. There is more, like I said, in the original version. It goes on and finishes, and there's a nice sort of coda ending to it that's fun. So I recommend doing that, but I think that's most of it. There's one hard lick, right, in the middle of this section, right? And it's because some of the notes make sense, right? But then some of them don't. I want to go, all right, that's what a triad, an arpeggio sounds like, but it doesn't go to that. It's a 7 chord. All right? So that's already, my ear doesn't like that. And then this C repeats. So you have to make sure if you want to mark it somehow, I usually mark like a little line between the C's that shows me that it doesn't change notes here. And I'm not sure what I would do about the F, maybe circle it. I don't like circling notes because it sometimes makes me nervous about those notes. But if it's just to bring my eye to it, in my part, I just have the whole thing circled because I didn't want to forget to talk about it. And then I don't take a breath. It's tempting to do, but... Right, there's a break there, but that C sharp goes to the D, absolutely. And you could break the tie before the C sharp and go to the D that way. But I don't find it's that hard to make it all the way to the last statement of, you know, and I breathe there, and I do break that tie because it makes sense. That makes more sense to me than doing it somewhere else. And you could try to sneak a breath somewhere else, I guess, but there's not really a better place to do it. So that's my solution for that. And where to breathe is really important because that's what keeps you calm and keeps your trumpet working instead of your lips, right? Let's see, I've got some more comments. This is the high school all-district solo. It's not a Rubank solo. This is just a belay solo. And it is more interesting because they just redid the state solos in North Carolina, and so these are new. But this is probably the most interesting of all of them because it's a real solo. It's not a constructed solo, which is what we're going to talk about now. So that's the Prelude et Ballade, Ballada, I'm not sure actually. And like I said, don't play off this version. Play off the original version that you can download for free at imslp.org. Just all you need to know is the title of the piece and the title of the composer, Belay, right? And this will give you much more information than the retypeset version. You just have to know where to stop because this piece goes on. Okay, so that's one solo. We'll put it here so I don't lose track of it because I need it tomorrow for our all-district clinic at my school. Okay, so the next one we're going to do the high school 9-10 solo. And I'm just going to make a quick note to myself that this is about 34 and a half minutes in. So I can tag it for you guys, 34.5. All right, so now these solos This is a little bit different. These are designed to be solos that you couldn't have seen before. And so they change styles and articulations. They really challenge your ears. They just try to sound weird, basically, right? And so even more so than before, the rhythms and the pitches are critical because they're designed here to trick you, right? This is going to be true of the middle school solo as well. So just make sure you always know exactly what it sounds like. All the music words, right? What does brillante mean? What does con anima mean? What does andante cantabile? What is poco rubato, right? Domo poco rubato, Mr. I couldn't get it. But just make sure you know everything about the style of each section and, of course, the notes and rhythms, right? There's always something changing, and it's designed that way. There's always something for you to miss, and then that makes it very easy to take points off and eliminate people, which, again, is part of the audition, right? They can't take everybody, so they need excuses to get rid of people, and this is kind of how these pieces are designed. So make sure you really hear it and you really can sing it and do the fingerings, right? Always do the fingerings with singing. So I'm just gonna play this one, and then we'll get to things. The first one, I'll just tell you right now, most people are not going to pull out for D. You don't have to pull out a lot. It's like a half an inch, but you've got to pull out. Otherwise, you're lipping that note down, and it sounds different. And it also shows that if they can see you, right, it shows that you don't know that that's an out-of-tune note, and that's not a good thing, right? So make sure you pull out. You won't be able to see me pull out because of the bell, but I promise you I'm doing it. Sorry. That's what I get for talking too long. Okay. So this will really start at 37 minutes. All right. So that's the first section. There's not really much to it. Just make sure you crescendo where it says, not too much. You pull out where you need to, and that you hear the pitches adequately, and that you don't miss any partials, right? All right, next section, con anima, brillante. A lot of these words sound like what they are in English as well. What are we going to need for this one? Really nice, good, firm embouchure on low B. Don't let it flab out. And then make sure you pull out for C sharp this time, right? C sharp, and then you get it back in for D sharp. Again, this is designed to fool you, so don't let it. So I'm sorry, I made a rhythmic error. Again, what am I going to do? I'm going to mark it in. In this case, I'm going to mark the beats. 1 and there's a little 1, 2 in there, and 1 and 4. Sorry, 3 and a 4, right? So you mark it in. Now I have no problem playing it because I'm seeing the whole thing. It's hard. I was ready to play eighth notes because they're so spaced out, right? This is the spot I'm talking about. Oop, right there. And you can see how I marked it, right? Now I'll see the beats, and so I won't make a mistake. Now, you've got an A and a B ending here. Which one are you supposed to play? Well, you need to know both, but basically the A ending is for the preliminary round, right? And the B ending is what they're going to make people play for the final round, okay? At least that's what I understand. So if I were doing it, I would make 2 copies, one with the A ending and one with the B ending that eliminates, because I don't want to see the A ending if I'm not supposed to play it, because it's next in line. So I'll play that one first, and then we'll play the B ending as well. And normally, again, you wouldn't play the A ending at all if you're going to play the B ending. You just skip it entirely right from where we just left off. So I'll play that last bar, and then I'll go on to the A ending, and then I'll do it one more time with the B ending. nice little ending, right? Got that E flat in there that's a little bit challenging to hear, right? And the B flat earlier on. Now we'll do it with the B ending, which has a little more something to it. The only thing here is there's a high A, so make sure you can play a high A, work on your high range, work on your lip trills, right, up in the top of the staff. And there's a little poco rubato here, and I recommend not taking a breath in that bar because it's a death trap, right? It looks like you should be able to, and you might want to take it off your face for a second, but it's a sure way to lose time and miss the next note. Let's get one better run at that. But you see what I'm talking about, right? If I go... I mean, it's little sippy breaths anyway. What am I going to do with those? And if I really need one, I guess I could. But it's better to just... sorry, I just breathed. Right? Just sort of stop, even with your tongue. I know that's controversial, but even just a little stop with your tongue, right? Just that helps you stay set up. All right, one more run at the B ending, from a little further back maybe too. Yeah, there you go. What is that scale? Almost a hexatonic scale, if you want to look that up, or an augmented half-step minor third, sometimes called augmented scale. Anyway, that's the 9/10 solo for high school this year. Not too bad, pretty short. They even give you timings on these, 1 minute for this one. It's worth noting if you go a little slower, it lasts a lot longer on these short pieces, right? So we're going to talk about that now. The middle school solo is supposed to be 58 seconds, it says. And if you go 88, which is what it recommends, right? But if you can't go 88 because of the 16th notes or the dotted 8th 16ths, well, then it gets longer, right? At 88, right, that's this tempo. It's about a minute, right? But at 70, which feels a lot better, right? Right? That's the fastest stuff you play. Now it's 1 minute and 15 seconds. That's a quarter amount as long, or longer rather, right? So think about that. If you go at 60, it's a half time again. It's 1.5 minutes. So just think about that. It's worth really practicing the fingerings to go a little bit faster so you don't run out of lip on it, right? Okay, so let's work through it. Again, music words, changing styles, right? Articulations, some funny notes in there just to kind of trip you up, right? And a lot of music words too this time, right? Cantabile, martial, conspirito, maestoso, right? A lot of music words. So, and again, you're gonna, there's an A and a B ending. It's from the same company, Audition Solos. And anyway, we're gonna try it out. And just make sure you're hitting the right partials. This is a really important case right here at the end of the first line. All right, we've got... Right, you need to play that E really solidly. You can't play a C. All right, you can't do that. And you don't want to play a G either because then you're a partial off. Either way, right? So make sure you really hear... Right? If you can't sing it, you're not going to play it very well. So, you don't have to be a good singer. I'm not. You do have to be an accurate pitch hearer, pitch listener, right? Okay, here we go. I left out one thing so far, and that is make sure you pull out for the D, the second note, right? Again, same thing as on the high school solo. If you don't pull out, it's going to be out of tune, and people are going to notice. So pull out for that D and the D that's later. You can actually leave your slide out for both of those notes as long as you get it back in after. Okay, let's keep going. New style, right? Now, this bar in the middle, you're going to want to rush that, but don't do it. It's da-da, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, bum, bum, and just mark the beats right in there, right? You've got to make sure that the rhythm is over time in this case, right? And that you don't just play da-da-dum, and then da-da-dum, and then dum-dum as fast as you can, or when you think it might be. It's exact. Da-da-dum, 2, and a 1, and 2, and, right? You know, it's not ones and twos, but you get the idea. All right, we'll keep going. That was the A ending. Just make sure in that maestoso you don't double dot and 32nd note. It's just da 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 da, right? Subdivide 16th notes in your head. All right, now the B ending. Oh boy. Now remember, they're using this to figure out who's going to play what parts in all state and all districts, right? So, if for the all state one, when you're playing the B, ending here, well, they want to know who can play a G on top of the staff because that person's going to play first, probably, right? Or the people who sound really good doing it. So you want to play first. You got to make sure you build up your range and get that G on top of the staff. All right. So that's the middle school solo right now. Now, scales. We have different scales for everybody. So I am going to skip. We've got, well, and you might have different copies from different years. So I've got this one. This is called 910 Honor Band scales. They start on A. Then I've also got high school all district trumpet and euphonium scales. That one starts on E major. Right, and then I've got trumpet scales 11, 12 honor band. That one also starts on E and is identical to this one. And then I've got trumpet scales middle school. That one starts on A but only goes one octave, right? So you play the one that's for you. I'm going to play through the high school one because that has all of them on it. And if it's 2 octaves, you only have to do a 2-octave G scale in middle school, right? And chromatic scale. And basically the way they do this is you have 2 minutes to complete. I think it's 2. It might be a little bit longer, but you have a certain amount of time to complete all the scales, right? So what you need is really good finger confidence. All of them sound the same, right? They're all major scales except for the chromatic one. So you need to know them absolutely. You can't read each note, even if you're allowed to. That's when you're going to have the worst time because you're going to think about it too much. You're going to miss notes that are in the key signature, even if you have your page all marked up. I mean, if you have to do it, do it. But what you really need is to have it all in here, right? And so the way you do that, I'll show you. And if you've worked with me before, we've done this. But you're just going to play the first 2 notes of this scale. So E major, we're doing E major. Even if you're in middle school, you can play along. All right? We're going to play E and F sharp. So we have to first figure out what those fingerings are. And then we know the sound. It's a whole step like every scale. Right? That's the first 2 notes. Now let me see if I can play a 3rd note. All right, I can do that. I'm not even thinking about it now. All right, let's see if I can play a 4th note. you can see I'm not looking at the page, right? I just want to get every single chunk of the scale like where I don't have to think about it at all. My fingers just go down and I can go back and forth and sort of iron out my scales in that way, right? I might go. Something like that, right? Or maybe I want to do it in thirds. Whatever it is that makes it autopilot for my fingers when I go up and down, that's what I need to do. So I suggest doing it, memorizing it in little chunks of 3 or 4 notes, and then doing the next chunk and the next chunk, and then putting it all together, and really not looking at the page at all. Now, the other pitfall for scales, besides just going fast, is we have these triplets at the end, right? Now, don't play your triplets, bum, 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 bum. That's not a triplet. That is 2 dotted eighths and a quarter, or 2 dotted quarters and another quarter, right? 2 dotted eighths and an extra eighth. That's what that is. That's not a triplet. Triplets are even, right? Da 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 dum 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 dum. And if you're confused about how to do that over 2 beats, just think Carol of the Bells. Dun 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 dun. Except the beat is the accented note, right? Dum dum bum 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 bum, and you'll have it every time. Or put your metronome slower, right? Well, in this case, dun 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 dun. You just want to fill up the beat. We don't even. It's in 2/4 already, right? So okay. Let's play these scales. I'm going to play them down, I guess. I don't know. But we want to make sure we iron them out. Okay? So, like we said, right? So hopefully we can do this. Let's set a timer. See how much time we can do. I'll just use count up and we'll see how much time it takes. How about that? Okay. So I walked in the room. So they started the timer. They said, Gabriel, play your scales. Hurry. All right, here I go. Got it done in 1 minute and 11 seconds. Not bad. So now it wasn't all perfect. I had to go back for one. I wasn't ready to do 2 octaves. I just didn't think about it for the arpeggios. And so looking at it actually threw me off. So I wouldn't look at these at all. I can't look at scales anymore. They scare me. I just would, tell me what scale to play and I'll play it, right? These are not all the scales, of course. There's F sharp and B and we did E. Let's see, what else did we miss here? A flat is missing. I think that's it. And if you're playing one of the other scale sheets, right, you're not going to play all those scales, and your chromatic scale isn't the same. I'll play that one. This is the 9-10 honor band, and I believe the middle school one only goes to. So I'll do both of those, just to be clear about it. So this is the 9-10 high school. That's how that goes, right? Up to B flat and starting on only low G, and then the middle school is starting on low G and going up to G on top of the staff. And you want to just have it that fluid, right? If it goes any slower, then you're going to have to play it a long time. You're probably not going to be able to play the highest notes. So anyway, that is the stuff. All of the stuff that you're going to play for these all district solo auditions, all district and all state. Oh, we've got right now in honor band for final. We have to learn the song Moscow 1941. Great piece. Rough Riders and choreography in an hour. Yeah, well, that would be a lot. Choreography, you say? Well, at least we didn't have to learn choreography for these solos, right? Because that's a lot of. I only do that for Shazam, which you can see in my last recital. So anyway, I hope this has been informative. I know it's been quite long, and normally I want to do a quick and dirty 6-minute, like here's all the stuff for this video. But then I thought, well, that's not really how I generally do things, and I think, to be honest, is a powerful thing. So this is all the stuff I know about these pieces, and some honest stuff that I didn't play perfectly, but I fixed it pretty quickly, and I think that is honest in a way that shows you that you also can do that. So just get to practicing on it. Go slowly, use a metronome, sing it a lot, right? Make sure you know what it sounds like before you start playing it, and have a good time with it. These are really nice solos this year. I actually really like them all. Even the constructed ones, I kind of start to get an affinity for them after a while, and that's a good rule of thumb, I think. If you hate one of the solos that you have to play, just live with it longer, right? Just kind of let it wash over you. Sing it a lot more, right? Make sure it's a song that you love singing, and then play it, and you'll love playing it too, right? Maybe get a good recording of it and listen to it until you just can't anymore. But you're going to start to have a favorite part. And as soon as you have a favorite part, well, now you're in trouble. You're going to like this piece eventually, right? So, okay, now that's all the all-state, all-district classical solos. I also happen to have the jazz one from our region. And so I'm going to do that as sort of a bonus. And this is on Black Orpheus, which is an absolutely great tune. And I'm just going to play the written out part. We can do a whole other section on, and maybe I will, on how to improvise over these things. But get the recordings first, right? Find out what these guys sound like. This one has, so what will happen is you'll play the head of Black Orpheus, that's the melody. Then you're going to play this solo that they've written out for you as excerpted from other famous people's solos. So it starts with Freddie Hubbard, then Dexter Gordon, then Bob Brookmeyer, and then Paul Desmond. He's the guy on the well, there's a famous TikTok that is Paul Desmond playing soprano sax. So if you know that, then you'll know this Paul Desmond. But anyway, so they've excerpted their solos, and you need to be able to play them with some ownership. You don't have to play them exactly like they do. And actually, you can get all these on Spotify. I have a playlist I will try to share with you, maybe in the chat or something. It's just these solos from Spotify, and you have to search around for them. They're not the beginning of all the tracks, but you should just listen to the whole track anyway. They're all great CDs or albums or tracks or whatever you want to call them, right? Okay, here we go. Oops, I just got excited. Anyway, that's a little bit of that. And I think that has some artistic ownership over these pitches without just blatantly ripping anybody off. But you should definitely listen to, especially the Bob Brookmeyer. It's a really great solo. And it's a little bit different than what's written on the page here. You should play what's on the page. But it's really a nice solo that you can rip a lot of licks out of. And I mean, it's just really. Oh, you know what? I just noticed they have the times listed here. So you can use my playlist on Spotify and then just skip to that time in the track, and it'll be the solo that it says. Okay, so anyway, that's all. Thank you for watching. Please contact me if you want a Zoom lesson or anything on this stuff. If you're in my district and you're playing these pieces, I'm here to help you. That's literally my job. And if you're playing other solos, you can also have. I don't charge for lessons, so you can just always have a lesson on whatever you like. If I have time, I will give it to you. And if you want to come in person, that's great. And if you want to do it on Zoom, that's also fine. But anyway, this has been all about the 2022, I guess, Eastern North Carolina all-region and all-state classical trumpet solos. So thank you again, and hopefully I'll see you on the next live stream.